Hi boys and girls, it's Miss Cullivan, and today I'm going to read you a science article about a marine ecologist named Enric Sala. A marine ecologist is a scientist who studies animals and plants that live in the ocean. And this man's name is Enric Sala, and the story is written by Kristen Kozort. Enric Sala has always wondered about things that live in the ocean. When he was young, he loved to swim. He liked to watch all kinds of animals and plants through his mask. He wanted to be an underwater explorer. Now, the mask they're talking about in this story is the goggles, the masks that he puts over his eyes, not the kind of mask that we are wearing to cover our nose and mouth, but this mask goes over his eyes and it holds tight onto his face so no water can get in there. Then he swims under the water and he can see all the animals and plants through the mask without the water getting in and hurting his eyes. Today, Mr. Sala is a marine ecologist. He studies how underwater plants and animals relate to each other. He learns how they need each other to stay alive. Do you remember that vocabulary word, relate, that we learned last week? That means how they go together and they connect, how the plants and the animals all relate and connect together. What do you think Mr. Sala did to become a marine ecologist? What do you think he had to do? I bet he had to go to college and study and learn a lot about the ocean and the animals and the plants that live in the ocean. I bet he took a lot of science classes. Does Mr. Sala's job sound interesting to you? Do you think you might want to be an underwater explorer and a scientist to study animals and plants under the water? Let's see. All right, this next page is titled Underwater Cities. Mr. Sala studies coral reefs in the Pacific Ocean. A coral reef is like an underwater city. Thousands of plants and animals live there. They compete for food and space. Coral reefs are beautiful. They are also easily harmed. So look how beautiful those coral reefs are. They look like plants. Some are hard like stones, and they're all colorful. Lots of animals. You can see all the fishies in the background. Lots of animals live around coral reefs. It's a great, healthy place for animals underwater to live. Many different kinds of plants and animals live in a coral reef. Reefs and humans. Mr. Sala also studies how people's actions can change coral reefs. Sometimes people pollute the water or they overfish. Overfish means that they catch too many fish and they don't leave enough in the ocean to make new fish. Well, that changes the way all the living things connect to one another. Coral reefs can become damaged. Then many animals must find new homes, and some animals just disappear. Mr. Sala wants to prevent this. See the picture? That reef is all damaged, and many animals can't find food here. So do you see how it's not bright and colorful and beautiful? It's kind of just a yucky green color. It's because it's not healthy. So something or someone has hurt that coral. Right? Polluting the water is something that humans do when they make the water dirty. When the water's dirty, plants can't grow and animals can't live in dirty water. They can't survive, right? Sometimes humans damage or hurt the coral, like break it, hit it with a boat, or when they're swimming, kick it or hit it with their feet. It looks like this one has a little piece missing out of it that maybe somebody stepped on it or broke it when they were in the water. Mr. Sala, being the scientist that he is, he wants to prevent this from happening. And that means he wants to keep it from happening. He wants to stop the damage and the hurt that's happening. So he wants to keep the animals and the corals home safe. All right? All parts matter. Mr. Sala believes that all living things in a coral reef should be kept safe. Underwater ecosystems are like airplanes, Mr. Sala says. They need all of their parts to function. Who wants to travel on a plane knowing that 5 or 10 of the parts are missing? To take better care of marine habitats, we first have to study them. It's the only way to understand the full impact humans have on these places, Mr. Sala says. So we have to study the coral reefs and learn everything we can about them, so then we can learn how to protect them and keep them safe and stop people from hurting them. All right, just want you to take a few minutes to think about two genres that we've been reading about. We read Go to Sleep Gecko, and that is a folk tale. And we know that folk tales are stories that people have passed on from generation to generation. So my great-great-grandma told the story to her children, and when those children grew up and became grown-ups, they told the story to their children, and they passed it on generation to generation. And sometimes those stories are written down and they're in books. But a long time ago, folk tales were just passed on by people telling stories. Now that we can make books quickly and easily, the folk tales are written down, but they're still stories that people hear over and over and over again. So you might hear a story, a folk tale that your mom heard when she was a little girl, and your grandma might have heard that same story too. So that's a folk tale, Go to Sleep Gecko. And then today we read Coral Reef Connections about Enric Sala. That was a different kind of story. That was a science article, right? They're different. They're not the same. So take a few minutes to think about that, right? The folktale had animals as characters in the story, but Enric Sala was talking about a real person and what that person does. So take a few minutes to think about how a folktale and a science article are different. I'm not sure you're going to find much about these two things that are the same, but you can try. Think mostly about how they are different. Thanks for listening, boys and girls. See you later.